What's up, my comic comrades, and happy Halloween. We hope all of you are having a safe but insanely fun time this weekend. We are also closing out Villains Month in the most fitting way possible on Halloween with a look at some seriously evil villains, the Deviants. But before we dive into the war between the Deviants and Eternals, we want to thank Conflict of Nations for sponsoring today's episode. Conflict of Nations is a free online strategy PvP game that puts you in control of the nation you choose and its military, so you could wage war against other players and their nations in a struggle for global domination. Overall, one of the coolest things about Conflict of Nations is that you have to develop a long-term strategy and execute modern warfare tactics against opponents over time. Then declare war against your neighbors in real-time war games that can go on for weeks before someone emerges victorious. It's pretty dope. You can also download the game on your PC or mobile device and sync your account across both, so you could keep the fight going from wherever you are. Just click our unique link in the description to download and start playing Conflict of Nations now. And by using our link, you'll get a bonus gift of 13,000 gold and 1 month of premium subscription for free. But that offer is only available for the next 30 days, so jump on it right away. And when you do, we'll see you on the battlefield. But now let's find out why the Deviants are such formidable villains. The Deviants first appeared in July of 1976 in the Eternals issue 1. They were created by the one and only Jack the King Kirby. That's right, there were no co-creators, solely Jack Kirby. And Jack Kirby gave us the Deviants' origin in Eternals issue 1. And it goes hand in hand with the Eternals, so if you watched our Origin of the Eternals episode back in 2019, a lot of this is gonna sound familiar. Anyway, let's get into it. Now, the short and sweet version of who the Deviants are is they're an evolutionary offshoot of humanity created by the Celestials. And when I say created, they were the result of experiments on prehistoric humans around 1 million years ago. Like I've said in the past about the Eternals, the Deviants first came into existence when the Celestials, an ancient race of cosmic gods, were like, let's go to Earth and perform genetic experiments on the life forms there because they're weaker than us and it's fun to pick on weaker life forms, so let's do this thing. Anyway, on to how the Celestials actually created the Deviants. As the Eternals issue 1 states, it all began with the coming of the gods to Earth when it was populated only by the beasts of the field. Still, it was the presence of life which drew these cosmic beings to this planet. Their huge space vessel surveyed the land and descended. The comic continues to say it was then that the gods proceeded with their mission. They chose to change the destiny of a life form, which was new to the evolutionary chain, the ape. A specimen was trapped and taken alive. That's right, those celestial bastards stole an ape and started experimenting on him, all Planet of the Apes style. Kinda messed up. These experiments led to the creation of the human race in the Marvel Universe. Once they began experimenting on the ape, the comic says, only the instruments of the gods could do what was done in that momentous time. The ape was given the cosmic chemistry that would father the races to come. See? Told you, the comic even says after this, in this manner, the Dawn ape became the common ancestor to 3 powerful new species. The Deviant, ever-changing and a destructive failure, which is structurally unstable. Each new generation of the Deviants appear in new and monstrous ways. They're also all about constant war. And even though we're here to talk about the Deviants, we will mention the other 2 species since it's part of their creation. Next would be the humans. Being humans ourselves, we know what that is, but I'm gonna break it down the way it's explained in the Marvel Universe. The issue says, the human is a species bred with true balance of structure and disposition. Although he was a destroyer, the human was capable of building for peace. His kind was destined to inherit the earth. He belonged to it. And then, of course, we have the Eternals. As the comic reads, the Eternal. He was more of a child of the gods than of earth. He reached for the universe. The Eternals bred few in number and were immune to time and death. Like the gods, they lived apart from all other living beings. Now that's how the Deviants were created, as well as the Eternals and humans. But now you might be saying, we know the humans took over the majority of the earth, or more specifically, as we're told, the human. He collided with nature, the beast, and his fellow man. He subdued the earth and made it his home. Although he still yearns for peace, he lives with dangers that would destroy all he has created. But what happened to the Deviants? You know, the reason why we're doing this episode? Well, like the volatile, energetic creatures they were, the Deviants took to the earth's inner depths, where they toiled ceaselessly at creating new weapons. The myths of man are filled with the terrors inspired by the clashes with the Deviants. As for the Eternals, they took to the highest mountaintops. They probed the universe with their minds and soon developed powers which surpassed those of all other earth life. Because of this, they were regarded with awe and fear. And that, my friends, is how the Deviants came to be, but you also got a bonus origin for how the Eternals and humans came to be in the Marvel Universe as well. Because all 3 races are offshoots of one another. Now, for those of you who didn't know, Thanos is a Deviant Eternal hybrid in the comics. However, in the MCU, he hasn't been shown to have any connection to either race, but maybe the Eternals movie is gonna change that. Anyway, all that to say, that is the Deviants' original Jack Kirby origin. But them, along with the Eternals and humans, were given a modern, updated origin in the 2006 Eternals miniseries. In issue 1, Arris gives us the Deviants, Eternals, and humans' origin while healing from a bomb explosion he just survived because he's an Eternal. Anyway, he tells us, I don't know what the Celestials are. If I ever knew, I don't remember. There are a few things I do remember. I don't know if they came to Earth once or 100 times before the modern age. Arris believed they had. If you don't know who Arris is, he's the leader of the first generation of the Eternals. Anyway, Arris goes on to say that Arris once told me that he believed the Celestials had seeded the whole planet with life. Maybe there were once dinosaur civilizations. You have to wonder where they really went 65 million years ago. I wonder if it's some cosmic game the Celestials play over and over. Deviants, Eternals, humans. This is what happened the way I remember it. They came here over 500,000 years ago, maybe 1 million. They were bigger than you can imagine, bigger than giants, and they chose the proto-people, early hominids that bore the same resemblance to humans that wolves do to Great Danes. Humans were simpler, smaller, stupider, but the Celestials saw the potential, knew what one day they could grow into. The Celestials built machines. My friend Ajax could talk to the gods directly, mind to mind. He spent centuries trying to figure out how the machines worked. Ajax said they were like nanocircuits, only the other way around. Macro circuits, maybe. Big rocks that do magic, real magic. They made Eternals. As we see the Celestials throw handfuls of proto-people into one of their machines. We then see the Celestials' real magic tearing apart and rearranging one of the proto-people, turning them into an Eternal. Arris goes on to say, I was made by the Celestials. It's like the arguments about the intelligent design. I know my designers were intelligent. I just don't know what they wanted from me. They made about 100 of us, and then they made the Deviants. I know, right? Finally getting to the Deviants portion. Anyway, he tells us, imagine a race of people, none of whom was even of the same species, each with a different look, attribute, and shape. Every member of the Deviant race was a fresh roll of the genetic dice. They kind of got out of hand, bred like rabbits, and were smarter than whips. Pretty soon, they ruled the world. Millions of them, all so different, as we see them enslave the humans. The comic goes on to say, we left them alone until they stopped leaving us alone. They wanted to take us apart and see how we worked. Arris says we, the Eternals, had to learn how to fight, and we had to do it fast. And we did. Turned out we've been built for that as well. As we get imagery of 100 Eternals fighting the millions of Deviants. Arris says, but it wasn't a war we could win. Still, we knew we had to call them. They left us that knowledge. And when the time came, we called, referring to the Celestials. And they came from space, the second horde. The Deviants fought back, but it was like a cloud of gnats going against an armored car. Within days, the Deviants were defeated. Their lands were destroyed and lost beneath the Pacific Ocean. They were reduced to a few thousand survivors and had never again regained their numbers. Arris continues to tell us the humans now freed from the deviant slavery were able to grow and flourish. The Eternals, my people, we helped the humans by encouraging them and inspiring them. We taught them how to plant. We showed them how to work metals. We all have different talents and skills, and we use them selectively and quietly to help build the human race. And then 30 years ago, the Celestials came back to judge humanity as they once judged the Deviants. The third horde, I don't really remember all of it after that. There's stuff that's kind of cloudy in my mind. And he's saying all this to Dr. Mark Curry, who was an Eternal himself, he's just forgotten. As for the Deviants' powers and abilities, it differs from Deviant to Deviant, as each Deviant are completely different from one another. Some of their mutations can provide them with superhuman abilities, but even when they do have powers, they're more often than not as great as those of the Eternals. For instance, Crow, the leader of the Deviants and the main bad in the Eternals movie, has abilities most similar or on par with that of an Eternal. His main power being a virtually unbreakable mental control over the processes and structure of his body, even when he's asleep or unconscious. Because of this, he's already lived over 100,000 years and is completely immune to disease and aging. Also, he's extremely malleable like Plastic Man, but we'll get more into that in his Origin of episode. As for reading recommendations, check out the original Eternals series by Jack Kirby and the 2006 miniseries. But that should be enough to get you all started, so let us know what you think about the Deviants in the comment section. And while you're at it, make sure you check out Conflict of Nations. It's a free online PvP game where you test your hand at modern global warfare strategy. Just click our link in the description to get that free exclusive, then choose your country and battle your way to world domination. And that's gonna bring today's episode of Rant to a close, but if you enjoyed today's episode, check out this one right here. And if you like all of our videos, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. It always helps us out. But other than that, I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things comics.